Nobody tells you this part about financial stability. You work hard, you save, you pay your bills on time, and somehow you feel more tired than before. This isn't about being poor. It's not about being rich. It's about the constant mental weight that comes with being stable. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If stability feels exhausting, something is wrong and it's not you. We're told stability is the finish line. Get a steady job, pay everything on time, build a small emergency fund, and life is supposed to calm down. And sometimes it does for a brief moment. Then a different kind of stress shows up. Not panic, not chaos, maintenance. Before stability, the fear is obvious. Can I cover rent? What if something breaks? What happens if I lose this job? The threats are concrete and immediate. After stability, the fear becomes quieter and constant. Don't mess this up. Keep everything running. One bad month, and the whole thing collapses. Nothing is on fire anymore, but nothing ever turns off either. You're no longer stressed about survival. You're stressed about maintenance. And here's the strange part. You thought reaching stability would mean you could finally stop thinking about money all the time. Instead, you just trade one kind of attention for another. Before, you were watching for disasters. Now, you're watching the dashboard, checking that everything is where it needs to be, that nothing has shifted, that the system you've built is still holding. On paper, this is success. In your head, it's a never-ending checklist. This is the part most financial advice ignores. Being stable is mentally expensive, not because you're irresponsible, but because your brain is now responsible for keeping a system running. Bills, renewals, subscriptions, car expenses, medical costs, random fees you didn't plan for. It's not one big problem, it's dozens of small ones that never stop coming. Your life becomes a dashboard, nothing is flashing red, but you're monitoring everything all the time. And that constant monitoring is exhausting. The worst part is that you feel like you're not allowed to complain because technically you're fine. You have a job, you have a place to live, your credit score is decent. By every external measure, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But internal experience doesn't match the external scorecard. You're carrying the operational load of a small business, except the business is your life and there's no one else on staff. Every decision point requires attention. And attention is a limited resource that doesn't renew just because you got some sleep. The irony is that financial stability was supposed to buy you peace of mind. What it actually buys you is a more complex system to manage. You went from juggling 3 balls to juggling 12, and someone told you this counts as winning. Nothing is on fire anymore. You just can't leave the building. Let me tell you what this actually looked like for me. A few years ago, I reached what I thought was stability. Bills paid, a small emergency fund, no more panic every time I opened my bank app. On paper, I was doing everything right. But I didn't feel relaxed. I felt responsible for everything. Every decision felt heavier than before. Not because I was broke, but because I finally had something to lose. If the car made a noise, my brain noticed. If a subscription renewed, I noticed. If groceries cost a little more, I noticed. Nothing was wrong, but nothing ever shut off either. That's when I realized something important. Stability didn't remove stress. It changed its job. Instead of worrying about survival, I was worrying about maintaining the system, and no one tells you that part. I remember looking at a spreadsheet I'd built to track everything, color-coded, organized, functioning exactly as intended. And I felt exhausted just looking at it. Not because it was complicated, but because I knew that keeping it working required a part of my brain to always be on. The system worked, but the system needed a systems administrator working a shift that never ended. This is why this topic matters. Most people watching this video aren't trying to become rich. They're working adults, families, middle-income earners doing exactly what they were told would create peace. And instead of peace, they got weight. More than half of adults live in this middle zone. Not broke, not wealthy, just responsible. Enough income to function, not enough margin to relax. That's where stability feels heavy because you're always one surprise away from it not being stable anymore. If you've ever thought, I make more than I used to, so why do I still feel stressed? This is why. Spending scales, obligation scale, expectation scale, but your mental bandwidth doesn't scale the same way. You add a car payment because you need reliable transportation. You add better health insurance because the cheap plan has a deductible that could wreck you. You add renter's insurance because not having it is irresponsible. Each of these decisions is rational. Each one makes your life more secure on paper, and each one adds another line item your brain has to track. This is the middle class trap that no one names clearly. You earn enough to have responsibilities, but not enough to outsource the mental labor of managing them. You are both the employee and the manager of your own financial life, and neither position gets a day off. And this is where most people miss what's actually happening. This is where stability quietly turns against you. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explains something most people overlook. Money decisions don't happen on spreadsheets, they happen in our heads, in the middle of fatigue, stress, relief, pride, and pressure. That's why two people earning the same income can experience completely different levels of stress. Stability adds responsibility, responsibility adds attention, and attention that never turns off becomes exhaustion. This isn't a discipline problem. It's a cognitive load problem. If your money system requires constant decision making, it will wear you down. Every choice, no matter how small, burns mental fuel. Should I buy the name brand or save $2? Can I afford to eat out this week? Is this expense justified, or am I being careless? Individually, these decisions are trivial. Cumulatively, they're suffocating. The brain doesn't distinguish between big stress and small chronic stress. It just knows it's been running diagnostics nonstop for months. Now, this matters. Some people aren't exhausted because they're managing too many moving parts. They're exhausted because there isn't enough income to create margin in the first place. No amount of budgeting fixes a math problem. If your paycheck barely covers essentials, the goal isn't to invest better yet. The goal is to stop living on a financial knife edge. That often means increasing income temporarily, a higher paying role over time, a side hustle that actually creates margin, not to get rich, but to buy your brain breathing room. Even an extra $200 or $300 a month can completely change how money feels. Margin isn't luxury, margin is oxygen. And if you're in this position, the advice to automate your savings or optimize your portfolio isn't just unhelpful, it's insulting. You don't need optimization. You need more money coming in than going out consistently so your nervous system can stop treating every grocery trip like a tactical mission. This isn't about discipline or better budgeting apps. It's about creating enough space between your income and your expenses that you can think about something other than survival. That space is called margin, and without it, no financial system will feel sustainable. Let's make this real. Imagine you earn $4,500 a month after taxes. That's not poor. That's not rich. That's most working adults. Rent is $1,700. Utilities and internet are $300. Car, insurance, and gas cost $600. Groceries are $600. Health, phone, subscriptions, and minimum debt payments add another $700. That's $3,900 before you've lived it all. That leaves about $600 on a good month. One repair, one medical bill, one unexpected expense, and it's gone. Your brain knows this even if you don't say it out loud. That's why you never fully relax. You're not catastrophizing. You're just doing math. The solution isn't motivation, it's reduction. Reduce the number of money decisions your brain has to make. Think about it like this. If you get paid on Friday and you wait until Sunday night to figure things out, you've already lost. By then, decisions have started happening automatically. Money has already begun negotiating with convenience, mood, and fatigue. First, define your stability floor, the non-negotiables that must be paid every month. Second, automate that floor. Bills, transfers, minimum payments. Systems don't negotiate and they don't have bad days. Third, Separate money into simple zones: one account for bills, one for spending, and one savings account that is inconvenient to access. Friction beats discipline. Fourth, if income is tight, use a margin rule for extra money. Split it between stability and life so the system stays sustainable. Finally, once a month, do a 15-minute audit. Cancel what you don't use, reduce noise. Every cancellation removes financial and mental drag. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to move financial decisions from active memory to background processes. Let the system run itself so your brain can do literally anything else. If financial stability feels heavy, you're not broken, you're overloaded. Stability feels heavy because maintenance is heavy, unless you design it to run without you. The fix isn't pushing harder, it's building systems, creating margin, and reducing mental noise. Money shouldn't live in your head all day. If you enjoyed this video, click on the screen to watch the next one. Do the boring stuff, it works.